Good morning. This morning we're going to learn about interpreting diagrams and text passages. Good morning. Today we're going to learn about interpreting diagrams and text passages. Our first strategy is about how to interpret diagrams. There are many diagrams that you'll see on science exams. The very first thing you want to do when you see a reading passage with a diagram is to look at the diagram and decide what is going on in this diagram. If we look here, we see this object that looks like a balloon, and we see it's labeled with a force moving to the right and a force moving to the left. And we also see that the motion is to the right. And it looks like there's a bunch of little tails here indicating that air is being blown out of the balloon, and therefore the balloon is moving to the right. All of this information I would write down in my test booklet or on a scrap piece of paper. That way you have it ready for you for the question. So let's take a look. Our sample question is, what conclusion can I draw by looking at the diagram? Is it A, air resistance in front of the balloon pushes it backwards? Well, we've already determined that the balloon is moving to the right, which is forward, so we know that that is not the answer. B, gravity forces air out of the balloon's open end. Well, what I know about gravity is that it makes things fall to the ground, and this balloon does not appear as if it's falling to the ground. C, the force of the air leaving the balloon propels it forward. Now here's a word, propel, that I may not know what it means. I don't need to know what it means. I can see that the force of the air is actually leaving the balloon. I see that in my picture, so I'm going to say for now it's C. I have not read D yet, however. Friction causes the balloon's acceleration to decrease. I don't understand that at all. Have no idea what that answer is. So I'm going to say it is C based on the picture and the force of the air leaving the balloon, and I see that it moves forward. Let's go to sample question 2. Sample question 2. Which direction is the reaction force in? Is it F, upward, G, to the left, H, in the direction of gravity, or J, in the same direction as the motion? Okay, so the reaction force. I can see a force is moving to the left, and therefore I see that makes a force move to the right. So I'm going to say this must be the reaction force, especially since I see the motion moving to the right. So let's look and see. Is it upward? No, we know our balloon's not moving upward. The reaction force to the left, it could be to the left. Is it H, in the direction of gravity? No, I know it's not that because it's not falling. Or is it in the same direction as the motion? So I've got either G or J that it could be. So I see the force is this way. So this must be the reaction force. So I'm going to say that it is J, in the same direction as motion. You can use this elimination strategy as well as looking at the picture and drawing some logical conclusions to help you figure out the answers to a lot of questions on tests. Do not bypass diagrams. Look at them, dissect them, write down the information so you have them ready for the question. Here's another sample question. We have a diagram here. I want you to pause the video and I want you to take a look and write down some information that you see about this diagram. Okay, now that you have your information written down, let's look at the sample question. In the food chain, okay, so I know that's a food chain, shown in the diagram, which of the following organisms obtains its energy directly from the frog? Is it A, the grass? Is it B, the grasshopper? Is it C, the snake? Or is it D, the owl? Okay, I want you to pause the video and I want you to answer the question on your own. I want you to try this based on the information you wrote down. Welcome back. What answer did you get? Did you say that grass gets its energy from the frog? I hope not, because we all know that grass gets its energy from the sun. Did you say that the grasshopper gets its energy from the frog? Did you say the snake gets its energy from the frog, or the owl getting its energy from the frog? Well, let's look at the information you may have written in your diagram. We see that the arrows go from the bottom organism up to the organism above it. What does that mean? That means that the energy flows from the grass to the grasshopper, to the frog, to the snake, and to the owl. However, the eating relationship is backwards. So we know that owls eat snakes, snakes eat frogs, frogs eat grasshoppers, grasshoppers eat grass. So therefore, the grass gives energy to the grasshopper. The grasshopper gives energy to the frog, and we know that the frog directly gives energy to the snake. So, which of the following organisms obtains its energy directly from the frog? If you said C, snake, you are absolutely correct. Next, sample question 4. Which organism in this food chain eats the snakes? So we already answered that question based on dissecting the diagram and answering the previous question. We know that it is an owl because the feeding relationship goes backwards. We know that owls eat snakes. So if you G is absolutely correct. Okay, our next important strategy is how to interpret a text passage. There are science questions that have gigantic text passages, and there may be words in those text passages that you do not know the meanings of, and that is okay. You don't necessarily need to know the meaning of some of those words. All right. The very first thing we want to do when you look at a big overwhelming reading passage in a test question is first look at the questions that follow the passage. The questions will guide you as to what to look for in the passage so your eye can go to that important information. Then you read through the passage carefully. You underline key phrases. In science questions, key phrases are your science words. Those are the words you want to underline, or your science words, or ideas that help you answer the question, or anything that you think is evidence to help you answer the question. Let's practice. So we have a sample passage here. I'm not going to read it. It says, which letters represent the genotype of the parents? So I already know. So if I have my paper or my booklet, I'm going to circle the word genotype in the question because I'm looking for genotype. I'm not sure I remember what that is from 7th grade, but when I look at the answers, I see, it's these letters that I used when I learned Punnett squares. So the genotype is capital B, and it's of the parents. capital B, lowercase b for B. C is just one B. Well, I'm already going to tell you that I know that this is not the answer because I know that a genotype has to have 2 letters. Or D is lowercase b, lowercase b. So let's look for genotype of the parents and read the passage. A pet store's customers prefer pet mice with black fur over mice with white fur. So I'm going to circle white fur and black fur because I know that I'm doing a genetics question. With this in mind, the owner crossed a female with black fur, so I'm going to cross female or circle female with black fur, and a male with black fur, and I'm going to circle male with black fur. When the mice were born, she was surprised that 3 of the 10 offspring had white fur. So one thing I would write down is 3 equals white. 7 equals black. She did not know that the parents were heterozygous for fur color. So here's a science word, heterozygous, that I need to know the meaning of. So I need to know, is heterozygous a lowercase and an uppercase? Or is it 2 uppercase or 2 lowercase? Well, I know that hetero means different. So I know, in fact, that a heterozygous is an uppercase B and a lowercase b. So which letters represent the genotype of the parents? The uppercase B and the lowercase b, which is letter choice B. You do need some content to remember that, but you have to remember some science content to do these questions. Now, let's look at our second question, sample question 2. If the pet store owner were to cross one homozygous black mouse with a heterozygous black mouse, what percentage of mice would you expect to have white fur? So in this, I'm going to go on in my booklet or on my paper and do my Punnett square. So I know that a homozygous black mouse is a capital B and capital B. I know a heterozygous black mouse is a capital B and a lowercase b. So I'm going to do my Punnett square. And when I cross a homozygous black with a heterozygous black, I get 2 boxes of my Punnett square with capital B, and I get 2 boxes of my Punnett square with the heterozygous, capital B, lowercase b. So I know that as long as I have 1 capital letter in every box, then I have the dominant trait, which is black. So every one of my boxes have a capital B, so all of my mice will have black fur. So that means that none of my mice will have white fur, and that is F, 0% has white fur. So this is how I did not even have to read the passage again, because the question told me what to do without having to read the passage. That is one of those examples in which you could just read the question and figure out the answer without reading the passage. So these were a couple more test taking strategies for you. I want you to practice these and have a good day.